and welcome to the Worn and Wound podcast. My name is Zach Kazan. I'm the managing editor at Worn and Wound, and this is your semi-monthly Q&A episode where we answer questions from the Worn and Wound Plus Slack community and also Instagram. So, of course, I have rogues gallery of my coworkers here ready to answer questions. Kat Shoulders, head of content, is joining us once again for our monthly Q&A. How's it going, Kat?
It's going great. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you as always. We've also got Devin Pennypacker, who runs our social media and also handles the asking of these questions. He's become the kind of de facto question MC for these podcasts. Devin, should we put that on your business card?
I would love that.
Yeah.
It's more of a legal pad at this point than a business card, but why not just tack another thing on there?
Yeah, I think that's where we can also just do like really tiny print on a business card and
in white ink only.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks for coming on, Devin. It's always great to see you. We also got Garrett Jones, our photographer, who I think this is definitely the first time on a Q&A podcast. Have you been on the Mainline podcast before, Garrett, or is this your first time? I think in San Francisco you were on that episode.
Yeah, I was on San Francisco. I think me and you did one after my Canada trip.
Oh, that's right.
Graced it a couple of times, but definitely first time on the Q&A side of things.
All right. I don't know why I blocked those out. I apologize. I don't take it personally. It's been a long year. But we're happy to have you on the Q&A episode. This is a fun panel. Before we get to our questions, we'll of course do the wrist check. Garrett, let's start with you. What are you wearing today?
So I am wearing the famous or infamous, however you want to put it, Speedmaster that I picked up from Blake on a vibrant yellow, I believe it's called Viper, spring-made single pass strap.
Oh, very nice.
Infinitely adjustable, looks great, feels great. Just a wonderful combination.
Very awesome. Cool. Yeah. I'm glad you were able to find that Speedmaster. Definitely not infamous. It's just famous, I think.
Yeah, I was joking that story has been told by everyone but myself. So I love it. I love that everyone knows about the Speedy, and I haven't had to tell the story 100 times.
If only you worked for a watch blog where you could tell that story and be given a platform for telling the story of your Speedmaster. That would be
if
the untold story.
Article, yeah, if only there was an article in Works.
Yeah. Okay. I think we can. Yeah, I think there's something cooking there for sure. Devin, what are you wearing today?
Now bear with me. I'm not Italian, but I am wearing the Venezianico Nerde Diver. I know that's not right. Come at me in the comment section. But it's the aventurine dial, the tungsten bezel. Definitely on the blingier side of things, but it's been a lot of fun. Not to shoot. It blows up every camera that I point at it. But a lot of fun to wear and kind of play around with. And I'm really enjoying the finishing on this piece. For the price point, it's pretty impressive.
Oh, it blows up every camera. What? It's
just, yeah, it's in a great way.
Okay.
I'll put it out there. But no, it's just if you hit it with a flash, that tungsten bezel just like blows up and the whole dial gets kind of washed out. So you really have to play with the light settings. I did it for a little while. I was shooting with our shop manager, Ricardo, for a bit too, to try and get a wrist shot of it. And it took us way longer than either of us want to admit. So.
That's very cool. I like the Venezianico stuff that they've been coming out with recently. Lots of interesting materials and cool designs. Very cool piece. Thanks, Devin. Kat, how about you? What are you wearing?
I'm going to get a lot of hate. I kind of forgot that we were recording a podcast, and I still have my Apple Watch on, my Ultra that I do wear quite often here at the house. But I want to be lazy and just, have all the facts on my wrist. So yeah, that's what I have on today.
I don't think that's worthy of hate. That's a completely legitimate watch to wear.
A lot of watch enthusiasts don't like the Apple Watches for good reason, but I find it super useful, and I wear it every day when I go work out, and it's just easy to put on in the mornings by the bedside table.
Yeah. The Ultra is a cool thing. I think it's like it's sort of I don't know. I see your point regarding like the normal Apple Watch, which is just so ubiquitous. It's just like I'm frankly just kind of bored by it. But the Ultra still, I think, is kind of cool. Like you don't see those as often. And
has a siren.
yeah. That was the feature I was most interested in when it was first announced, was the fact that it had a siren. I really wanted to hear what it sounded like. And I think eventually I heard it and was a little let down. Like it's not as overwhelming, I think, as I expected it to be. But,
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, I'm wearing the Louis Erard Atelier Oui Regulateur collaboration. This watch is, I think, like 3 or 4 years old. It's kind of on the earlier side of these Louis Erard Regulateur collaborations. Like I've said a bunch of times, I'm a big fan of these Louis Erard collabs, and I particularly like this one. It's a watch that I post online sometimes, and I inevitably get a comment that says, like, how can you possibly tell the time on that thing? Or, oh, what time is it? And I just think, like, it's actually pretty easy to tell the time on this. Like, slow your roll, calm down. It's
Wow.
not that complicated. But
Zach is coming in hot at the beginning of this Q&A. Watch out, everybody.
a little bit hot. I don't know why. I think I'm like anticipating winter break or something, and maybe that's maybe that's it. But
we're all itching to leave.
Yeah. We'd all rather be doing anything else besides recording a podcast. And yet here we are recording a podcast. That's not true. I enjoy this, particularly this Q&A podcast. It's always a lot of fun. With that said, Devin, I know you have a bunch of questions from Instagram and from our Warner One Plus Slack community that have been submitted. So let's get started. Try to get as many questions in as we can. So what's first on the docket here?
Yeah, we have quite a few. And actually, I'll be honest, the bulk of them come from our Slack Plus community, where people chime in with like a lot of really great questions, but also we interact with them a lot, so they know us a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
So some get a little bit personal too. But we'll start off with some history. Oh, I know. It gets interesting. Let's look at history first, though. You've been chosen to develop a new line of dive watches for Citizen. You look deep into their archive. What do you bring back? And everyone goes silent, thinking of the Citizen vast archive.
Yeah, I don't have a huge knowledge of their...
Yeah, I don't have an encyclopedic knowledge of the history of Citizen dive watches at my disposal, unfortunately. Yeah, I don't really have a good answer for that. But I think that, Citizen obviously has been around for a long time. This is their 100-year anniversary year, or we're entering their 100-year anniversary year, I should say, I believe. So they obviously have like a huge history of watches to pull on. I think, if it were up to me, I would explore something that like hasn't really been, like fully explored yet. I feel like we kind of have like a sense of like the sort of like 60s and 70s, like Citizen dive watches. Those have been, reissued, in recent years and in a couple of different ways that I can think of offhand. So maybe something like funky from like the 80s or 90s that is maybe a little under the radar. I don't know what that would be because, like I said, I don't have, like that sort of like encyclopedic knowledge of Citizen offhand. But I would want to look at something that hasn't been like resurfaced yet, basically. And the weirder, the better. Basically, like the less commercial, the better. So this is like not advice to Citizen by any means. I would go for something that like would be like the more niche and kind of like maybe harder to wrap your arms around. Is like that's the stuff I'm interested in.
Yeah.
I think the hard thing here too, though, is that Citizen does a pretty good job of looking at their archive and using it to inform their new models. So, I mean, for the longest time, enthusiasts were talking about the Aqualand, and they brought that back and did it in a really positive way for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to kind of pull things from their archive, especially considering too that a lot of the models stayed JDM and never made their way over the pond. I will bring one up, though, very quickly here. Citizen used to do a line, their 7-star line, which was like their more affordable dive watches and everyday watches. They used to make a diver that was more of a skin diver. It had that like marathon pilot case. And they had a bunch of funky colors, a bunch of orange dials and blue dials. I think it would be really cool for them to expand on that kind of skin diver-esque case. We have like the Fugu, which is a little bit weird. We have the Aqualand. We have the ProMaster, which is very traditional. Why not take it back to basics and bring out like just a really killer, automatic, affordable skin diver? That's what I'd like to see from them.
Yeah, that's a good thought. Kat and Garrett, do you guys have any ideas on what Citizen should resurface in the dive?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just like quickly scrolling through some of their archived pieces just on Google here, and I found this really cool Citizen alarm date dive watch, and so it has an alarm feature on a dive watch, which I haven't really seen before, which is kind of cool and interesting and different. So that'd be kind of nice to bring back. I think I like things with weird complications that are, maybe not useful today, but once were, and are a little different. So that might be that would probably be my pick, I would say.
Well,
they've got some weird stuff, like I mean, like some really, really out there designs. There's a lot more like fully loom dial stuff that they did back in the day too. That's kind of crazy. So yeah, I mean, they have a lot that I think that they could still pull from, which is weird to say since they've done so much with the vintage reissues.
Yeah. Garrett, how about you?
Yeah, I'll kind of echo the sentiment. I mean, nothing off the top of my head that I can definitively point to, but with what Kat said, like I like funky, and so if I almost don't want to go through their catalog, but if there's something out there that's just really wacky, almost unusable, like that would be right up my alley, and just be like, I want something you see across the room, and if you don't know what it is, you're gonna come be like, what is that? Like, tell me about this watch you've got on. I want that kind of weird and funky.
Yep. I'm in the same
Nice.
boat. I think that the weirder the better. Something that could like bankrupt the company if they're not careful would be what I'd be looking for. Not that obviously we don't wish that, but like something that is like that feels risky and kind of strange is what I would be most interested in. Thank you for the question, Devin. What's next?
Yeah, let's stick with history for just one more second here. Sean asks us, now that Universal Geneva is coming back, what other dead watch brand would you like to see properly revived? There's a lot out there to choose from.
I think we had a question like this not too long ago, and we kind of came to the conclusion that there aren't a lot of like dead watch brands left like to revive. Like there are a bunch that are kind of like still like in like weird sort of like holding company situations, but there have been so many attempts at resurrecting kind of like quote unquote dead brands over the course of these last like several years as vintage reissue mania has kind of like gripped the watch industry. I like Universal Genève really felt like the last one in a lot of ways. I personally do not wish for like dead brands to be revived. Like I would, if someone has like the funds to like start a watch brand, I would rather them like start something from scratch than like revive a dead watch brand. It's if it's dead for a reason. It's kind of maybe that's a hot take. I don't know.
But, it's pretty hot.
Yeah.
Well, I agree and disagree because I think that what I think would be cool is, and this is maybe not like reviving a brand, but it would be so cool to see some of these prior American brands come back to being made in America. I think brands like Hamilton. There's a lot of American brands I can think of that would be cool. But again, if they were made today, they would likely be Swiss made. So yeah, I guess that would be something I would like to see is maybe an American brand kind of come back to America.
There's not really any like specific brands for me that I'd want to see, but just kind of like a an opposite side of the coin to this. Admittedly, I'm new to the industry, so I don't have like the knowledge or experience with some of these vintage brands. So for me, like with Universal Genève or any other brand that comes back, like I'm experiencing it for the first time. So like I've got you all that I can ask questions about, be like, how is this different? How's it compare? But for me, just another new brand. So like I get to hit all of these re-alive brands with the same enthusiasm that I would with like any other brand that hits the market. So for me, like I'm all for it just because it's more players in the game and it's, more for me to learn about and experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. It's all new. If you're coming to it, from the point of view of someone like new to the industry, I think that makes a lot of sense. Devin, are there any that jump out at you that you think are worthy of a revival?
Sean, I'm going to save your question here, and I'm going to say Lamania. That is a brand that I think kind of put the industry on its back for a little while, and then got shoved into the ground, died, tried to come back, didn't fully come back. They make it's an asymmetrical case mono pusher that every time I see one pop up, I want to buy it almost immediately. There's just a lot of really cool pioneering aspects to that brand that I think a lot of people have forgotten about. And if you look back into the archive too, they were there kind of working on movement technology with a lot of the brands that eventually took all of the credit for that technology. And it would be cool to see them kind of be resurrected, whether it's a part of the brand or a standalone brand. It would just be nice to see that name pop back up again.
Yeah, for sure. That's a good answer. Yeah, I think that would be welcomed by the community for sure if Lamania came back in some capacity. Yeah, that's great. All right, Devin, what's next? I'm hoping you have something other than history questions here, because I feel like I didn't study for the test that we're getting here.
That's fair. All right. Let's see here. Let's do something a little bit more fun, especially in the nature of the holidays coming up. Is Die Hard a Christmas movie? This one was hotly debated in our Slack Q&A question. People went back and forth, but I'd like to know your take.
I'm going to let someone else take this first. I have a take on this, but I don't want to I don't want to spoil anything. So, Kat, what are your thoughts on Die Hard as a Christmas movie? The eternal question.
I think it is. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Okay.
I think
whether or not it truly is, we always tend to watch it around the holidays. We literally just watched it last week, so yeah, it is. It just like kind of gets thrown into the bucket of like Christmas movies without even like thinking about it. So yeah, we'll add it in there.
Same sentiment as you, Kat. I mean, if it's on TV or if you watch it at Christmas time, Christmas movie. Maybe it's not the traditional Hallmark, but it's it's on during Christmas, so it's a Christmas movie.
Okay, in that same breath, then James Bond is now a Thanksgiving movie. Good job, guys. That's now canon. No, Die Hard is not a Christmas movie. Absolutely not.
It's not. It's definitely not. I'm sorry.
No. Yeah. I mean, the closest that I will allow a Christmas movie, non-Christmas movie to be that way is Harry Potter. Harry Potter, sure, you want to call it a Christmas movie. They always have an amazing Christmas scene. That's fine. But Die Hard, come on, no way. There's way more going on there than just a Christmas tree in the corner.
I love Die Hard. Die Hard's one of like the great action movies. I actually love the whole franchise. I think Die Hard 2 is really underrated. If you want a snapshot of what airports used to be like pre 9/11, Die Hard 2 is like a really fascinating example of being able to just like park your car outside the terminal and walk up right to the gate without security. Like it's really a trip to watch Die Hard 2. I don't think it's a Christmas movie. Like I think a Christmas movie is a really specific thing. It's definitely a movie that I find myself watching like, at Christmas because it's like it's on all the time, but that doesn't make it to me a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
And I've seen so many like think pieces on all these blogs kind of trying to relate like the values of Die Hard and the themes of Die Hard to Christmas. And I just don't buy any of it. Like,
yeah, I don't buy into that either. That's a bit much.
Yeah. So I love Die Hard. I don't think it's a Christmas movie. It really is the eternal question though, because this comes up every single year. And I think initially, like I kind of was on board with it being called a Christmas movie, but over time, as I've watched it more, I've just I don't know. I've just kind of like I've changed my mind. You know what is a Christmas movie that I watched over Thanksgiving break is it's on Netflix. You guys know this movie Hot Frosty? Yeah. This movie is about a snowman that's de-thawed, that's hot. That Lacey Chabert from Party of Five and Mean Girls has a romance with.
I haven't watched it.
It's insane. It's a very self-aware Christmas movie.
I think we have different algorithms.
Listen, this movie's not good. I'm not recommending it. I'm just saying it's a thing that exists that's weird. And it was I'm a cinema lover. This was part of the conversation a few weeks ago. It was so I decided to watch it. Very strange film. Anyway. No one asked about Hot Frosty, but I've got all sorts of thoughts on it. People want them.
Next time. Let's stick with cinema then. What is your favorite organized crime or mafia movie of all time?
Oh, that's a great question. Of all time.
All time.
Heat. 100%.
Ooh, I don't know if I'd call Heat an organized crime or mafia movie, though. I mean, I guess like it has...
It's organized crime. They're organized.
I mean, it's crime. I think like this question is specifically like...
Like mafia, like Godfather type. Okay. Let me think on
I love Heat. Like Heat's a banger. I just don't know that it would ever be... I'll go ahead and say it's probably the Godfather for me. Was probably my favorite overall. I love Goodfellas. Like that's the other one that's sort of like in competition. For me. But I just think Godfather is just like such a like rich text. It's about so much more than just the mafia. It's really about kind of like the immigrant experience in America, and it's just like a masterpiece. It's like unequaled. So Godfather probably gets my vote. Garrett, do you have thoughts on the best mafia movie?
In the vein of true mafia, as you're describing it, no. In the vein of like movies that I've watched where there's lots of crime, and I'm gonna take heat for this, but I have such fond memories of watching them with my dad, is the Fast and Furious franchise.
Okay,
They're
that's
stupid.
Not a mafia. Come on.
They're off the wall. It's no mafia, but it's just fun. And like it's just I remember like as a little kid watching them, definitely probably should not have been. As I got older and was a teenager and was learning to drive, they were still out. And like, it's just unrealistic. I'm not jumping over cars, but it's just fun to watch. And that's, there's a lot of crime. So that's my answer, as wrong as it is, but that's what I've got for you.
It's wrong. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Devin, what about you?
All right. So this isn't really organized crime, but it kind of is. And these picks make no sense, but here are my two. Four Brothers is a movie that I watch probably twice a year. No idea why. But every time it's on TV, I have to watch it. It barely dabbles in crime, but it's a great movie, and there's some crime going on there. But in a truer sense, the movie Legend with Tom Hardy, complete dreamboat. He has a dual performance where he plays his own twin, and it is a fantastic movie.
I've never seen it.
Also kind of horrible, but I love it, and I do watch that one probably once or twice a year too. And yeah, I know the first time I watched it, I hated it, and then every time I watched it after that, I kind of grew to love it more and more. And so that is one that just pops up a lot.
Yeah.
Kat, do you want to go back and pick something other than
I will
Heat,
pick something other than Heat.
Or Fast any movie? I know the Fast and the Furious franchise was next on your list.
I was looking through a quick list, and it was included on mafia movies, according to Google's AI. But still, I did think of another movie, Road to Perdition. I love that movie. Yeah, that's a mafia movie.
It is. Yeah, no, definitely an organized crime movie. I don't love Road to Perdition, but I think it's a pretty cool movie. It's like very unusual Tom Hanks performance.
Yeah, it's super sad, and I like super sad movies.
Yeah. I'm rewatching. I'm kind of always rewatching The Sopranos, but I'm kind of, like I'm in the midst of, kind of like a mini rewatch right now. I'm just going through like seasons 3 and 4, which I think is like the peak of the show. And as far as like organized crime, mafia stuff, like that's also like to me that's like in the same tier as Godfather and Goodfellas. It's like those three are kind of like the Mount Rushmore of this genre for me. So.
Where do you put Peaky Blinders?
I'm not a Peaky Blinders guy. Like I think Peaky Blinders is fine, but it's not something that like ever really like resonated with me. Like I know it's good and people love it. And I don't have anything like bad to say about it. It just isn't really just not my show.
That's fine. I'll figure out a way to sneak Tom Hardy into another pick on this list here.
I'm sure you can. I have total faith in you that you can do that.
Let's go back to watches for another one. David asks, what is your favorite digital watch currently?
Oh, I've got a good answer for this. I'm going to reach on my desk and show you guys. I got the Bush's Baked Bean watch.
No way.
This is my favorite watch, favorite digital watch of the moment. I haven't worn it yet. I need to set it and everything. But this was given to me as a gift. Bush's that's roll that beautiful bean footage. In a watch. It's fun.
Anyway. I did order one of those. I think Garrett may have too for our. Well, I ordered it for our Dirty Santa game, Sneaky Santa, whatever you want to call it, White Elephant.
Yeah.
So
that might be
in my family. Someone in my family is gonna end up with that one. Hopefully.
Yeah.
I need to order one of those. We were on a family vacation, and my stepdad made us stop at the Bush's Bean Factory. So I have to order one, and hopefully they don't listen to this podcast before I see them again. But yeah, no, it's still on my list to pick one up.
Do you guys know that it speaks to you? Like when I took it out of the box,
Oh, no.
like it has like a, I don't know if like one of the buttons like activates voice, but it says roll that beautiful bean footage when you like,
No way. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Way.
Okay.
yeah. So
Nice. I
pretty
didn't know
fun.
that.
Yeah.
Great.
I'm
I don't know if that makes it
envisioning-
better, but
Yeah, I'm just envisioning that going off in like the middle of the night, pitch dark.
Or in the middle of a podcast recording, potentially.
the watches are dark. You're watching The Godfather on TV.
Yeah. Roll that beautiful,
Roll that beautiful bean footage.
Anyone have like a real answer for
I mean, mine's easy. It's just what I'm wearing. My
Apple
Apple Watch.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to beat.
I find myself putting on, I have an Autodromo Group C that I wear every
yeah,
once in a
good one.
while.
I like those.
I have the black case with the green pushers, and I really like that watch. It's weird. I put it on, and like some people criticize it when I wear it, and then they start to handle it and they start to play with it and put it on, and they end up loving it too. It's just weird. It's very car related. I like cars, so it's a natural fit for me. But yeah, I don't know. It's just a bit of fun and a little pop of color.
Nice.
I have a G-Shock DW5600, I think. I don't know the exact ref, but it has the opposite LCD screen fully blacked
Mhm.
out. It comes to every windup that we put on and every other big event where I move things, just because I know I can beat the crap out of it. It's a G-Shock, but yeah, that's always my go-to.
Yeah. No, I mean the G-Shock is probably like, besides my Bean watch, the G-Shock is probably my answer. I have a bunch of G-Shocks, just sort of like lying around, my home, that I've accumulated over the years, and yeah, they're really easy to wear, digital watches that are fun, and there's a really great collector community around G-Shocks, which I think kind of enhances the experience a little bit. Yeah, that's fun. I enjoy a digital watch every so often, but
They're good for resets, right? Like when you're just tired of wearing an analog watch for a length of time or whatever, you just throw a digital watch on. You don't care about it. You beat it up. You don't have to set it. It's easy.
palate cleanser watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. All right. Next question, Devin.
Yeah, let's do an EDC one in honor of having Garrett on here.
Oh yeah, let's
Do you
go.
have any
Nice.
recommendations for pocket flashlights which do not take up too much space and fill the pocket?
Garrett, what say you? This is your
Ooh.
moment. Pocket flashlights.
Your moment to
Off the-
shine.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you snuck that one right in there. You really lighten up my day there, Devin. Off the top of my head, the Streamlight MicroStream. There's a AAA variant and then a USB-C rechargeable. I think they're like $25-$30, but it's uber small and front pocket, back pocket, wherever. I've had one for like 4 or 5 years now. Beat the crap out of it and it hasn't broke, so they're made well enough, and that's my go-to. Just super simple.
What's like the lumens on that? Is it pretty bright?
Oh, that's a technical. It's bright enough to see your keyhole, but not bright enough to blind you in the darkness.
Mm. Yeah.
That feels like a good balance.
Non-scientific. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kat, Devin, how about you guys? Do you have a favorite flashlight?
So I will say I have a flashlight that I've had on my list for a very long time, and this is a brand that's I think a popular brand within the watch community. Is that Moishant? Is that how you pronounce it?
Ushant, I think.
Oh, Mouchant, the pocket
Mouchant.
torch.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how to actually pronounce it, but I've seen them tossed around quite a bit in the watch community. From what I know, they're rather expensive, but they look really cool. They're super sleek and very small and very powerful. So I've just had one on my list, just haven't been able to like justify the price of spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars on a flashlight. And then Tactile did a flashlight earlier this year that I really like the look of and meant to pick up, and I think they're sold out. So I'm just kind of waiting on another batch from those guys.
Was that?
But I do want to add
Apollo?
a flashlight. Maybe that's what it was called. I can't remember.
That sounds familiar. I think that's right.
Yeah, I think that might be it.
I use the flashlight on my iPhone.
Yeah,
I knew it was coming. Yeah.
I'm sorry to be that guy. I don't often find myself needing a like a super strong flashlight, although I do like having like a UV light, like just kind of hanging around, just to kind of like charge the loom on on watches that I have laying around. That's fun. And I usually have like like a no-name one that's usually like like a branded gift or something that comes with a watch, or that you get at a event like Wind Up or something. I usually have one kind of like sitting on my desk. Devin, do you have a flashlight preference?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So I have an Olight Arcfeld, like the old generation that doesn't have the UV light on it, unfortunately. So I need to upgrade that soon. But honestly, I just don't see the need to put it in my pocket. It has a pocket clip. It's a slim profile, sure, but there's enough in my pockets to pull my pants down now that I don't need to add anything to it. And I always have a bag with me that can just hold the flashlight for me. So
Yeah.
it's that one. I think it's like 1,000 lumens too. It has a magnetic base charger, has a laser pointer, so I can make the cats go nuts when I'm bored. It's perfect for what I need it for, minus that UV, which now I can upgrade and take care of. So that's next on the list for the EDC items this holiday season.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so that was actually a pretty good segue. Let's take a look at sport watches now. And Drayson here wants to know how important lume is on a sport watch to each of you. Does it affect your purchasing decision? For example, you find the watch beautiful, but the lume is rubbish or non-existent, so you don't care.
I'll start off. It doesn't affect my purchasing decision one way or the other. Like it's I mean, I like like nice lume. I like it aesthetically. It's not so important to me like functionally. I find that even with like pretty weak lume, I can like get by in most situations where I'm like in a dark environment that I would actually like need to check the time, like in a movie theater, for example. It's never been a deal breaker for me though in like a purchase decision. I've never like not bought a watch because I liked everything about it but the loom. So that's just my personal take. I know that it's like it's a lot more important to some people than it is to me. I was actually just having a conversation in our kind of like local watch meetup group chat, and people were talking about loom and how like a specific watch, which I won't mention, was basically everything this person wanted it to be, except it didn't have strong loom. And that just seems like a like to me a very foreign kind of reason to like not buy a watch. But I know it's it's a practical matter for some people, and they really want or need it. How do you guys feel about loom?
Go ahead, Garrett.
If I have two watches that are identical spec wise, price point, whole 9 yards, I'll buy the one with better lume. But if like I have my eyes on one specific watch and it doesn't have lume, then it's not the end of the world. Of course, I like it, but it's not going to make me not pick up a watch.
I've had it honestly go the opposite way, where I had lume ruin a watch. I think it visually detracted from the overall dial design. And I think sometimes it's limiting, right? Like if we're looking for an everyday or a dress watch when you don't need lume to be applied to that dial, don't apply lume. You can put really nice polished indices on there, faceted, finish them however you want to. But so often I think we get stuck on the whole thing of like, oh, it has to have lume, that they end up putting lume plots on the indices or somewhere on the hands, and it just takes away from the visual design. And actually turns me off to a couple models out there. Now, I love lume. I like a really strong lume application when it's necessary, but I just don't think we should be married to it on every single watch that comes out.
Yeah, I really agree with that. I think that that's an excellent point. You hear that a lot in conversation around like Grand Seiko, for example. There's a lot of Grand Seikos out there that have like very intricately finished faceted hour markers, which are great at reflecting even small amounts of light, and honestly like are just fine in the dark because of that. And people kind of griping about the lack of lume. Well, I mean, these are like kind of like elevated, more refined watches in theory, and like lume maybe doesn't belong on the dials. Plus you've got these markers that are sort of like finished and designed in such a way to be legible in darker situations in lieu of lume. So yeah, I think that's a really good point. Kat, how do you feel about lume as a deal breaker or not?
Yeah, it used to be for me back in the day when I first started collecting. I felt like I wanted all my watches to have some level of lume on them. I've come a long way from that now, and I think I'm more picky now if it's a watch that I feel is designated to have it and it doesn't, or if it doesn't do it well. Like if I buy a dive watch and the loom is crappy, like that watch is not going to stay in my collection unless it's something like my vintage Tudor, which the tritium loom is gone on that watch and it's as expected. But if I went and bought, I don't know, a brand new Submariner or an Omega or whatever the dive watch might be, and the loom was crappy, like, nope, returning. Like, I'm just like not okay with that. Or if I even buy like a GMT, a brand new GMT, I expect it to have pretty good loom. But that's just like my personal expectations for those types of watches. I don't expect a dress watch or even a Speedmaster to have like incredible loom on it. But it's always a nice surprise when it does, I will say. But yeah, it just depends on the watch.
Yeah. All right. Next question, Devin. What else do we have?
Let's go back to Sean, who always supplies us with a slew of awesome questions. And he wants to know what our thoughts on hardened steel or hardened coatings are.
Pardon, like on the watch case?
I assume watch case and bracelet.
Yeah.
I mean, a la like Raska and Sin, and a lot of companies out there are really starting to harden their cases in order to make them more scratch resistant. And I think some people out there think that it can visually soften the watch a little bit, but other brands are getting really good at finishing their watches to the point where you don't even notice that they're hardened, and they still look like a standard brushed case. But you're getting that added benefit of it, which I guess is my opinion on this question as well. I am pro hardened steel. Please give me more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that take. Honestly, it's not something that I spend a ton of time thinking about. I think that it's a nice added benefit, but like not a requirement to me. It doesn't like detract from a watch in my opinion. Like we're usually talking about like kind of like tool oriented sports watches when we're talking about like hardened cases and bracelets, which like just that technology is like more well suited, better suited to those types of watches. I can see situations where it might kind of like dull the look or finish of a case if it's like a dressier piece. Then you kind of get into this weird like why are you doing it? Kind of kind of question. I'm not allergic to the idea of scratches though, like on watches. Like it's never been a something I've feared or worried about. But it's a cool technology. It's a way for brands to kind of like flex their manufacturing skills. And in that respect, I think it's interesting. But it's honestly not something I spend a lot of time thinking about.
Garrett,
I think
you're working on a review for a hardened steel piece, are you not?
It's in progress. Yeah, it's one of those things that like I like having it. It's not necessarily a determining factor in buying a watch. But it really comes down to like if they can execute it in a way that doesn't subtract from the design, then I'm not going to say no to more features.
That's a good point. I was going to say, I personally have moved away from it. I used to like it and have owned watches. Most recently, probably like the Zen U50 that I had. And I sold that watch and I was the second owner and it looked brand new because it had no scratches on it. It was really cool. But for me personally, I prefer like a brushed stainless steel with polishing case. The coatings tend to look a bit masculine in my opinion. And for me, just like isn't my style of watch, but I think they are really cool, and there's a huge benefit to having that coating on there, especially if you're rough with your watches.
Yeah, I tend to be drawn also, Kat, to watches that have some sort of polished element too. Just like it's just my own personal preference. I like the contrast of like a polished finish against a brushed finish. So, for that reason, I'm not often, at least for personal purchases, I'm not often looking at watches that have these anti-scratch or hardening treatments on them.
It's great for resale.
Yeah, for
Helps
sure.
you out. All right, let's have some fun here. And I don't know actually who asked this, but someone asks here: tacos on corn or flour tortillas?
Oh, corn for me,
Corn.
all the way.
Yeah.
I'll be the odd one out. Flour.
I'll beat you. I don't put them on any tortillas. I just like a bowl.
Oh man, that's
Give me a taco salad any day.
yeah. I do like. I mean, listen, I like a taco salad. But I like I like like a hard tortilla shell like in a taco salad for that texture.
Yeah.
So
Like
kind of
it's a
like
little
defeats the
soggy
purpose
with all the sauce.
of the yeah. Yeah, I had tacos last night. Corn tortillas. They're great. Yeah, I would never choose anything else if given the choice. But like I'm not going to turn my nose up at flour tortillas either if that's like all that's available.
Yeah.
All tacos are good tacos. It's like, there's no such thing as a bad taco. Or maybe there is. I don't know.
I've had a few.
Yeah, there's some bad tacos.
Definitely.
All right.
I got food poisoning in
Questionable
Mexico. There's bad tacos out there.
Okay. I guess I've been lucky to this point. My taco intake.
Yeah. Knock on wood somewhere, please.
Can I introduce you to Taco Bell?
Ooh.
I mean, listen, the spicy potato soft taco is an all-time great fast
Spicy
food item.
potato? I don't think I've ever had that. I didn't even know it was
been
an
on
option.
the value menu for years.
Oh, wow.
It's a great item. I highly recommend it.
There's nothing better than late night rolling up with a $10 bill and walking away with 10 Doritos Locos tacos.
Yeah.
And a lot of
I do
heartburn.
like the Doritos Locos, though.
Yeah. So the answer is not corn, it's Doritos. There you
It's
go.
Doritos, actually.
That's a much better answer. I won't fight that one.
All right. Let's look at another one here. John asks, in light of Moser and Studio Underdog collaborating, what two high-low budget brands would you like to see collaborate on a project next? And he offers up G-Shock and Urwerk as a possible collaboration.
Oh, that would be kind of cool. Yeah.
It'd be fun.
Yeah, I mean, G-Shock and Urwerk would be pretty interesting. Although I don't think either of them would be like down for that. I think that like this trend of kind of like high end brands and low end brands collaborating, I think that's probably going to continue. I would expect that like the success on the Moser and Studio Underdog collaboration is going to like speak to a lot of potential brands that would want to collaborate, and they'll see an opportunity there. I mean, I honestly like I think an Urwerk collaboration with someone would be a lot of fun. I don't know what that would look like. I don't know what the kind of like lower tier brand or more affordable brand would be. But as far as like higher end indies that like might do something like that, that's the brand that I'd be most interested in seeing kind of like translated into a more affordable piece, or just kind of like doing something paired with another brand in the way that Studio Underdog paired with Moser. How about you guys? Do you have thoughts on like a kind of high-low collab?
Yeah, I'd love to see like, I don't know, MB&F and I don't even know. Just another sort of maybe more affordable brand or even micro brand level company, but none come to mind that would suit it. But also, I don't think you have to suit each other. You could be really opposites in a way too. I don't know. Maybe it'll come to me here if I think on it for a second.
I mean, MB&F is kind of like done a version of that in house with the matte editions. That's sort of they MB&F collaborates with a bunch of brands and artisans, including Moser, in the past. But
Brew, wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah, Brew would be a fantastic candidate to do that sort of collaboration. I think it's interesting that MB&F sort of like took that collaboration idea like in house and just sort of like did it themselves, and now they have this like by all accounts pretty big kind of like micro brand business like on the side of their like high end artisanal business. So
yeah.
This is not really a space that I orbit in at all, typically, to be completely honest. So my knowledge is limited here, but having seen the Louis Erard Vianney Halter collab, which I think is really visually interesting, not my style typically, but looking at Vianney Halter's, and I hope I'm pronouncing that name right.
Yeah, that's right.
Awesome. Looking at their style of kind of retro steampunk era,
Mhm.
taking that and doing something just like way off the wall with like a digital G-Shock, something super basic. Would just love to see what they would, put out. It would be weird and funky, and we've already heard that I like funky things, so that would be cool to see. I don't know if I'd buy one, but it would definitely be interesting.
Yeah.
Just make it for him, please,
Yeah.
guys.
Just put it out. I just want to see the community up in arms, taking sides.
Yeah.
I think it would be awesome.
Not to stay with the same brand I already talked about here, but Bradley from Autodromo gets on the phone with the head honchos over at Vacheron, and they make the ultimate driver's watch. They combine the Americans into something, I don't know what it is, and they just make the ultimate vintage rally watch. I think it'd be a lot of fun.
Cool.
Two brands that really look at kind of vintage sport style in different ways, and could potentially come together for something really weird.
Yeah.
It'll never happen, but I'll see what I can do. I'll make some phone calls. I'll see if I can move some money around. I just think that collaboration would be a ton of fun.
That's a good one.
Those brands are so different. Like I mean, yeah, I love Autodromo. I own, Autodromo. Like I love Bradley's sensibility. It's like so on the opposite end of the spectrum from what I think of as Vacheron. Like which is like uber traditional to the point of like almost being like stodgy, not in like a bad way. It's just like
in the best way,
I guess. Yeah. No, they're really very like extremely old fashioned, like very like kind of like old guard Swiss watchmaking. So, yeah, it's an interesting question.
The most amount of replied to emails goes to Vacheron and Autodromo. Let's jump back into EDC a little bit here. We had a question come through asking, are there any good small multi-tools with a blade that won't be confiscated by TSA security? I have a Swiss Tech Altakey? I don't know. That I've had for many years now. It never gets noticed, but I wonder if there's something better out there.
I wouldn't risk it.
Any recommendations for it?
I've had too many knives get thrown away.
Yeah. Here's the ultimate preface to this. TSA is TSA. They will take or force you to surrender whatever they deem unworthy. So officially, there's no like TSA multi-tools that exist, nothing that's approved. I know people that fly with different things, and like a Victorinox Jet Setter, I think, is one of them. Never have an issue. And I know people that like will have a Gerber shard on their keyring, and that will throw them for a loop. So if you have something that's working for you and it does or doesn't have a blade, keep doing it, I guess. But officially, nothing with a blade it should get through TSA.
I will say something you could consider is like the James brand Palmer, which you could empty the cartridge from it, the blade, and then pick up a cheap pack at a local hardware store when you get to where you're going, if you really need to like carry a knife with you. But I have had, I can't tell you how many knives have been thrown away. A lot of times by accident because they're in my pockets and I forget. But I will never like buy something and then try to risk taking it on the plane because they'll catch you.
Yeah, criminals, stop listening right now. But if you check the planters outside of the Cleveland Hopkins International Airport, there might be a few of my pocket knives stashed in there. You forget about them, you ditch them in a planter, and you hope to come back, and then you forget about them again.
Yeah.
TSA is brutal, though. They have rules that they don't even follow. JFK threw out my yogurt. I think more people should know about this. It's a problem. Yogurt is an approved form of food to take on an airplane, and JFK said no and threw out 4 ready-to-eat yogurts, and I will never forgive them for that. So don't chance it.
Yeah. I've had to throw out this year 2 Hydro flasks that I just like left a sip of water in, and like legit they made me throw it away, and I was so pissed. I could have chugged it and they made me throw it away.
That's brutal.
Yeah, those things are like $40. Yeah.
Kat, you mentioned the Palmers. With those getting like the Palmers and the utility blade holders getting more and more popular, I've started to hear of TSA agents taking those even bladeless because it quote unquote could hold a blade.
If it looks like a knife, they'll take it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really there's not an answer. I mean, for
Yeah.
like $10, you can go to a hardware store and get like a Milwaukee Fastback or a Cobalt utility blade holder. In a pinch, it's your best bet, but to have on you, there's nothing that's a guarantee.
Yeah,
Do you guys follow TSA on Instagram?
I do.
It's a really good account. They've got a fun sense of humor.
Yeah, they do.
About like taking your stuff. Really is what it comes down to. But it's it's funny and informative. We'll leave a link in the show notes to the official TSA Instagram. It's amusing. Is what I'll say.
Are they
I love
as snarky as
unsuspecting
Wendy's?
accounts.
There's I don't know if they were snarky as Wendy's, which is notoriously like the champion of corporate social media. Fantastic follow on every platform. Definitely follow Wendy's. They're very, very, very funny. But for a government agency, they're pretty funny. They're pretty loose, I would say, for a government agency.
Check out the Cleveland sewage treatment plant. Their Twitter, amazing. It is like the best Twitter account.
That's
I think
The jokes write themselves. Yeah.
Yeah,
we should do we should do a piece of content. Our favorite like government Instagram accounts.
Yeah.
It's
tens of clicks. It'll be amazing.
yeah. All right. We have I think a couple more questions, Devin. What's next in the queue?
Yeah, Josh actually asked us how frequently we service our watches. Do you wait for something to go wrong, or do you do preventative maintenance? Do you go back to the AD, or do you use an independent service?
That's a very good question. I wait for something to go wrong. I'm not one to take a watch in for service if it's working fine. I guess in that sense, I don't treat it like a car. I wait for something to be noticeably wrong with the watch. If the watch is under warranty, I've had to do a couple of warranty repairs, within the last couple of years. Actually, I always take it back to the AD and work through the AD. That's definitely going to be the safest bet. They'll send it back to the brand or whatever service center they're contracted with, and you'll get like an official like authorized repair. If the watch is out of warranty, what I usually would recommend doing is like figuring out what the best course of action would be for that particular watch. There might be certain watches that would be perfectly easy to service like locally from a qualified watchmaker, but there are other watches that would almost certainly need to go back to the brand if they're like incredibly complicated or rare or what have you. So yeah, it's really watch dependent. But I would kind of handle that on a case by case basis if the watch is out of warranty. But if it's in warranty, I would always kind of work through the AD or through the brand. How about you guys? Do you guys have thoughts on that?
So I don't think I've ever owned a watch long enough to like have to send it back to the brand.
That was a confession. For those that didn't see it, Kat like got really close to her microphone and dropped her voice for a second.
That being said, I have sent watches off for servicing that I've owned that are a little older and pre-owned and used, and I've used people locally for it. I haven't had anything crazy, and I've owned watches, like I've owned several iterations of the Speedmaster Reduce, which are notoriously hard to work on.
Mm-hmm.
I've found that there's not really. That's kind of just like an old wives' tale, because I've found many people that could work on it. And I actually just got back my Tudor Submariner that I bought this summer. I sent it off for some servicing, and they worked with Tudor and Rolex to get some parts in for it. And it needs a little bit more work actually, but I got it back so I can wear it for a little bit longer before having to send it off again. But yeah, it's just I agree with Zach. If you have a watch and it's in warranty with the brand, send it off. I can see how it would be tough, especially considering there's brands that we all know that take forever to get your watch back. Yeah. That could be hard to do, but sometimes like just go buy like, I don't know, a cheap watch or maybe some straps to keep your other watches interesting in the time being. Do what you can to get by, because yeah, it may be gone for months and months and months. But you'll appreciate it when it comes back and it's working and as it should be.
Yeah, you really have to kind of like accept when you get into this that like there's going to come a time, it's inevitable. There'll come a time where you will have to send a watch off for service and you'll be without it for a period that is longer than you could possibly imagine would be possible. And you just kind of have to deal with it because it's really like part of being in the hobby, I think. Not a great part of being in the hobby, but it's sort of a fact of life. Garrett, I know you have a watch that you had modded, right? Your Seiko, and
oh yeah.
you've sent this back to your modder a couple of times to have things done to it, right?
Yeah. So I'm trying to remember a timeline. This was either right before I joined the team or right after San Francisco. I had just noticed that it wasn't keeping time right, like at all, and I couldn't figure out what was going on with it. Come to find out, this is a quote from my guy. I magnetized the movement to the point at which it could not be demagnetized. No idea how I did that. But so that was its one and only trip back, and it got a few customizations, changed out a second hand and a couple other things while it was there. But thankfully, all of my newer acquisitions haven't needed service yet. And at least with my Speedy, it's still under warranty. So should anything go wrong, I'll take that one back to the AD. And for any of my other pieces, I'll find somebody and get them taken care of that way.
Yeah. Devin, any additional kind of like words of wisdom when it comes to service on a watch?
No, I mean, don't take my advice here. I have 4 or 5 broken watches sitting in my drawer right now that I swear I'm going to get serviced at some point and just haven't. I do the same thing. I wait for them to go bang and then pretend I'm going to get them fixed. But the one thing I will kind of point out is check the manufacturer's website. Sometimes they offer services or they work with people. Big shout out to Swatch Group here. So if you buy something from Swatch Group, especially kind of their entry level brands, they do a really cool thing where they have a flat service fee. You can send it in. They tell you the price right up front. You're not waiting to figure it out. They tell you the time frame. Yes, if the movement's broken, they're going to swap in a new movement because it's cheaper for them to do so. But their service costs are way lower than if you were to go anywhere else. Yeah. So you're looking at an affordable, usually affordable service. You're looking at something that's going to be a little bit quicker, and you know what you're getting back is factory fresh or as close as they possibly can. And I wish more of the bigger brands would do this. So just check the websites because you might have that be the case for you. Maybe your watch goes wrong and they offer a similar service, and I think you should take advantage of that.
Yep, excellent advice.
I have an add-on question, actually. How do you guys feel about replacing parts? Do you lean more towards, would you rather have new parts put in, new hands or bezel or whatever it might be? Or are you in the camp of keep it all original? I want all the scratches back. Like, where do you sit?
If it's my watch, if it's a watch that like in theory is something that I am the original owner of and plan to own it forever, I'm fine with replacing parts because I feel like I want the watch to kind of be at like manufacturer's spec for as long as possible. I don't want things to go wrong. I don't want parts that are old or out of date to fail, or just to like look bad. I think like aesthetics is like a big part of the enjoyment of a watch for me. So like if I had a like for example, I'll use my Tudor Black Bay as an example. Like I have a Tudor Black Bay with an aluminum bezel. If that bezel got like all scratched up or chipped or something in a way that wasn't pleasing to me and I had to send the watch in for service anyway, I would be completely fine with them like swapping out the bezel for a service. I'm not sentimental about like scratches and things like that, especially because most of the scratches that I put on my watches are done because I'm sitting at my desk and I'm using a metal keyboard or something on my laptop. So like I don't have a sentimental attachment to to those kinds of like nicks and marks. That's just my personal view.
Devin was shaking his head no, so I assume that you're in the opposite camp, Devin.
I am. Well, yes and no. So, and actually, it's great that you brought this up because Andrew actually piggybacked in the Slack on that question and asked the exact same thing.
Okay.
You wanted to know, if you replace the parts or AR coding and whatnot. For me, if I buy a used watch and it's a little bit beat up at first and I send it out to be serviced, I will do a factory refresh on it. No big deal. Swap out the parts. As long as I can get the original parts, that's fine. Because sometimes you send it back and they don't make those hands anymore and they can't source you those hands. So they either put brand new hands on there or they just leave the old ones and refinish them. The first service on a used watch, fix it up, make it look brand new. After that, every dent that I put in there, I'm going to live with, I'm going to stare at, and I'm going to love. Maybe I smacked it into a dock when I was trying to get onto the sailboat and I missed, which has happened. Maybe I was out hiking and hit it on a rock. Maybe I smacked it into my keyboard. I don't care. That's my story. That's my watch. I want it to show wear. It's just a personal preference thing. I think the patina tells you a little bit more about that watch than if it just looks factory. And when I see a watch that's really beat up in the wild, I get really excited because I want to know what that person did with their watch. And they always are really excited to tell me about it. So please beat your watches up.
They didn't take care of it.
Well, okay, maybe. Yeah.
They screwed up a strap change.
If you're scratching your bezel, if you're scratching your bezel, changing your straps, that's a story.
Oh, well, you wouldn't scratch your bezel changing it, but I mean, look at the lugs on any watch where you've, changed the, swapped out the spring bars any number of times. Like all sorts of marks can happen in places you might not expect.
That's the reason I don't own a Black Bay 925 is because the back of every single one of those lugs has been carved out by the current owner. Whatever you guys are doing with those 925 models, it's wrong. Please just figure it out.
Yeah. Yep. I own a silver watch. And I mean, you can tell that I've changed the strap on that watch before. So yeah, but hey, that's my story. That's the story of that watch. Is I at 2:00 in the morning, I decided, what will this look like on a gray suede strap? Turns out I didn't even like it on the gray suede strap. I put it back on the OEM. Now I've got a scratch there, and it reminds me, just keep the OEM strap.
Yeah, I don't care. I want it to come back like looking new. I think of it like my car. Like eventually you get a ding too, or here and there, and yeah, I would like those taken out, and I would like my car to look brand new again. Same with my watch. If you can do it well and you can refinish it well, obviously, because there's people that butcher if it's not going to the proper channels, so don't do that. But if it's going back to a factory and they're going to make it look brand new, I'm all for it.
Yeah. Speaking of cars, a few years ago, my parked car got hit in the parking garage where I park every day, and when the insurance check came in, it left a dent, like a noticeable, dent. And when the insurance check came in, I decided I don't need to fix this. It's going right in the watch fund. So I turned a blemish on a car into a watch that probably got some blemishes itself. So, listen, there's a time's a flat circle in every way possible. Do we have time for one more question?
Yeah, I actually have a really good one that might make you all blush a little bit.
Oh, wow.
So we'll end with this one from Aloha J. They write, "You're all essentially celebrities in the watch world. Congratulations, you've made it."
Wow.
We all know a ton about you and your lives, but most of us are anonymous to you. What's the most interesting or funny or strange in-person interaction you've ever had with a watch, quote unquote, fan?
Okay.
And so everyone gasps.
Read the last part again. What kind of interaction are you looking for?
Most interesting or funny or strange in-person interaction.
I mean, I'm always like the ones that I remember the most are the ones where people tell me that they've traveled some great distance to come to a wind-up. Like that's something that I always remember at wind-up fairs, are the people who've I remember in San Francisco, not this year, but the year before, I believe, someone came up to me and told me that he had come from India. So
wow.
That he had traveled from India to to attend the wind-up fair and do other things. He didn't come just for wind-up, I don't think. But I'm always just blown away by the people who who travel to come to our events and come to see us. For some reason that always sticks out to me, because I don't think I would do that. I wouldn't envision myself traveling to another continent, taking an international flight to go to a watch event. So that always just kind of like blows me away. And just like honestly, like the people who listen to the podcast, I'm not just saying this because we're on the podcast, but like, I don't know, for some reason, the podcast always feels like a really personal thing that we make. And so when that resonates with people, it's meaningful to me.
Yeah.
Particularly if they listen to Time on Screen.
Yeah.
Because that's like kind of my
Hint,
creation.
hint to the audience.
Yeah. Solo hot frosty Time on Screen coming soon, by the way. But yeah, so that's kind of what comes to mind for me. What do you guys think? You have any thoughts on the favorite interactions?
Yeah, I love just what's really crazy is so before I came to Worn and Wound, I had a podcast called 10 and 2. And I've been at so many watch events in general that someone will just hear my voice and just turn around, and I get recognized just from my voice, not even, because for a long time people didn't even know what it looked like. I didn't really have my face out there very much. And that's always like such a cool and funny thing, I think, when you get recognized just for your voice alone. And I obviously appreciate it and still do when people come up to me and they hear me on our podcast or have seen me in our YouTube videos. And I love it. Yeah, I like the attention. What can I say? It's nice.
It's flattering for sure.
Yeah, no, it's super flattering. It's just it's super nice to hear.
Yeah, I've seen people come across the room at Wind Up to be like, "Are you Kat from 10 and 2?" and like have whole conversations, and I'm like, "All right, that's an impression." Like they were, that podcast did something.
We were one of
cool
like 4 women that had a podcast at the time, so it wasn't super hard to be recognized. But it's a really cool thing to hear. What about you, Garrett? Have you been? You're very identifiable. You got this huge beard, and
Now everyone's gonna look for the beard. Yeah, I've had
the guy with the camera and the beard.
I'm not hard to find.
One of many,
Yeah,
1,000 lumen flashlight.
Literally every guy on this podcast has a beard.
Oh yeah. Shout out to the beard.
Kazan's growing his out. Yeah, winter mode.
Just winter.
I have influenced people. I have made it. No, kind of this year at New York really kind of drove the point home because, like, I've seen other people come up to the various coworkers and be like, "Oh, I love this article," or "I love the podcast episode that you did here." I had a guy by the name of Aaron. I can't remember his last name, but he's in Jersey, and he shot me a message. He's like, "Hey," he's like, "I know you're going to be busy, but I'd love to just talk for like 5 minutes with you about photography." And granted, windups are super chaotic and a lot of fun, but I made a little bit of time and had a chat with him, and that was my first like cold DM on Instagram. Love to chat with you for 5 minutes, and like if you reach out to me, I'm gonna chat. So like that one impression like pushed me to cloud 9 for the entire rest of the weekend.
Yeah, that's cool.
So just
That's
awesome.
really cool.
What about you, Devin?
I mean, for me, yeah, it's a similar thing. We just opened up the Wind Up Watch Shop showroom. Maybe we should make a new thing with the watch room. But I had a really awesome conversation with a gentleman who I'd talked to through Instagram before, who kind of started following me because of the podcast. And then we chatted through there about a lot of neo vintage pieces, which is really cool. But I think the funniest one is before joining the Worn and Wound team, I worked on a lot of video content for Teddy Baltasar. Did writing and production and whatnot. And at the beginning of a very, very heavily watched video, I kind of pop in and hand the watches off to Kevin and Mr. Wonderful sitting there and have a little cameo for a moment. And the weirdest thing happened. About a month later, I get a text from my brother's friend who I hadn't talked to in a long time. And it is a screenshot of that video. And he just says to me, he's like, "How did you get in this room?" He had no idea what I did for a living. He had no idea that I was into watches. He just saw this video. And I asked him, I'm like, "Oh, do you follow the channel? Do you like watches?" And he goes, "No, I don't care about watches at all. I don't care about the channel." It popped up on my For You page on YouTube. I was like, that's really cool. It was just a weird, random happen chance. So
Crazy.
That's funny.
Yeah, that's probably the weirdest one. And it made my day for sure.
Yeah.
I thought of a really good one while Garrett was speaking of an interaction that I don't know if I've told the story on the podcast before, but I was this is like outside of like the context of Wind Up or like even being in the watch industry. I'm in the White Plains, New York train station for the Metro North like stop in White Plains, New York, and I'm waiting for my sister to pick me up for a family function, and I'm just like sitting there like in the train station, just kind of like doom scrolling on my phone like I always am, and I see a guy like come in, and I kind of like immediately clock him as sort of like maybe this person reads Worn and Wound, because he's just sort of like dressed in a way like he kind of, he's got like the shirt jacket and
beard and a camera.
Yeah, it's like, there's a type, and so it's quiet, it's like the middle of the day, and we make eye contact, and he asks me, are you Zach Kazan from Worn and Wound? And I'm like, yes, I am. And he's like, I was just listening to your podcast. And I'm like, this is incredibly random, because like I'm never in the White Plains train station. Like this is not like a place where I hang out. It's just like completely random. And like we struck up a conversation, and eventually my sister came to pick me up, and I had to go. But like we've like stayed in touch a little bit. His name's Mike. Mike, shout out to Mike if you're listening. Yeah, it's just like getting recognized, and he was very like appreciative of the podcast and all the content. And like he said like very nice things about about our website and everything. And it's just like getting that sort of like recognition like outside the context of like a watch event was like surprisingly like meaningful and
cool.
Moving actually. So like I just wanted to to mention that, because it's that's like a thing that happens, and it's it just kind of like helps inspire me sometimes to kind of like we want to make the best content for people. So
that's a good note to end on.
That's awesome. Actually, on that note, I do want to give one quick shout out to people. So working behind the scenes on the social media here, we had a lot of people get their rap reports at the end of the year where they post the most songs they've listened to and the podcasts. And the Worn and Wound podcast popped up on so many people's rap reports, and they posted it and shared it in their socials.
That's so cool.
And it was just such a cool, touching moment to see all of these people sharing our podcast on their feed and saying, hey, they listen to us every single day or every single week. And it was so cool. We were behind the Grenado in a lot of categories. So guys, we need to step up our game a little bit. But
we're coming after
thank you to
guys.
Everyone who shared that stuff. That was so cool.
Yeah, it's really fun to see it pop up, the podcast pop up in Spotify Wrapped posts. So I love that you've been reposting those, Devin. I think it was Meg Tochi, contributor, who posted her Spotify Wrapped, and we were on there with the Conan O'Brien podcast, which is one of my favorite podcasts. So just like to be in in the same level as Conan O'Brien.
Yeah,
he's on next week, right? Yeah,
Conan. Yeah, he's on.
Yeah, we've got Conan. Yeah.
Can't wait. Yeah, it's gonna be great. He's a big flashlight guy, Conan O'Brien. So. All right, guys. Thanks so much for coming on our Q&A episode. Last Q&A episode of the year. So we'll obviously continue doing this in 2025. And thank you all for listening once again to another episode of the Worn and Wound podcast. We really appreciate it as always, and we will see you next time for another new episode. Until then, take care.